Welcome to the first episode of the fourth season of the Wire to Wire podcast. As always, it's me, your host Yusuf. For this season premiere, I'm joined by two very special guests, Counts and Shreya Banerjee. Counts is the co-founder of Marketing Counts, and he's an award-winning film producer and an entrepreneur. Shreya Banerjee is also the co-founder of Marketing Counts. She's an entrepreneur that specializes in digital marketing and production systems. They are business partners with extensive experience in the field of marketing. In this episode, they will be discussing their journey in entrepreneurship, marketing strategies, and providing advice on how to adopt the right mindset when it comes to approaching business. This will be a fun and valuable episode. So without further ado, let's just get right to it. So welcome to the Wire to Wire podcast. I have Paul and Shreya here with me. If you guys want to start by telling the audience a little bit about your story, how you guys got started in business, and how did your guys' partnership begin?
Yeah, definitely. We're so excited to be here. Thanks for having us. So I'll let Shreya kind of share her story, and then I'll dive in with my story.
I'll keep it short and sweet, but my name is Shreya Banerjee. I don't have the traditional marketing background. That's what I always say. I was interested back in college, but I was just studying mechanical engineering of all things. Then graduated, took a job. I was in corporate career for over 12 years. And about 7 years ago, when my son was born, one of the major things that brought me back to marketing was his birth and having to deal with that, the conflict I'm sure all mothers deal with at some point, even some fathers deal with it at some point in their life when they have kids. They're like, well, that balance, that work-life balance, that even though they love what they do, they desire that time at home and trying to manage it all. So that's what I started looking into marketing again. And when I came back, I was doing more of like make money online, internet marketing. That's where I kind of got into again about 5-6 years ago and started learning a lot, learned YouTube, learned blogging, learned like how to drive traffic. I started attending seminars, and that's where I met Paul. I actually launched a couple of courses. So I have 2 digital courses that I launched and they did pretty well. So learned quite a bit. And then when I met Paul almost 4 years ago now, we decided to kind of go to the offline world as well and take our skills there. And I'll let Paul tell his story. He has a very long marketing history.
Yeah. So I started marketing at the age of 13. So I used to run a dial-up cord back to my computer back when I was a kid growing up in a town of 300 people. So I've been at it for quite a while. I was a sales rep for actually a junior sales rep. So this local t-shirt and embroidery company in the state of Washington decided to hire what they were calling Viper V's at the time. It was called Viper Sportswear. It's no longer in business, but they hired students to be sales reps inside of schools. And so it was there that I really started to understand email marketing. And I actually started doing email marketing at that age at 13 and starting emailing athletic directors and things. And then the owner of the company, I kept pushing them for a website because I was using old Hotmail at the time, right? And so you couldn't send attachments that were higher than 500 kilobytes, which couldn't send a picture proof, right? And I was like, you need to fix this. I need my own, email, this company name. So fast forward, and he was like, all right, you want this. So, you wanted the website, you learn how to market it. So then at that point I started to learn marketing, and then the rest is history. Really, I've been on doing digital marketing for clients, have produced a couple feature films in the process, SAG features, marketed for all sorts of brands and businesses, launched a couple multi-million-dollar ventures online, and it's been quite the whirlwind. So then that brings us to when Shreya and I met, actually 2018. We met at an event that Shreya was at because she was getting back into the internet marketing scene again, and I was looking for somebody with a process-based background and somebody that could help take the solopreneurship that I had, that business, to another level. And then we clicked, and next thing you know, here we are 4 years later with our agency and running, Success Counts. So we're very excited.
Yeah, that's a very interesting background.
Yeah.
It's interesting how it all kind of came together for you guys. So both of you, either one of you can answer this one first, but was there a particular moment where either of you had any doubts about getting into business? And if so, like, how did you guys overcome like that mental hurdle?
Gosh, all the time.
Yeah.
I would say all the time, because it's a scary thing. My story is a bit different. I said, I had over 12 years of corporate career, leaving a nice salary behind. So I was in leadership positions back then too, like leaving a nice salary behind to say I'm going to come full time. It's very nerve wracking. And at what point do you take the leap of faith to do that? But for me, it ended up happening during COVID because of, everything stopped, the world stopped, and all our clients, or not just all, everybody was trying to come online, and we expanded that way. As it was part of the reason we pivot quite a bit. That's one thing that's very different about us, is rather than getting frustrated about any situation, we just pivot. Like, okay, we might like whine or complain about it for 30 minutes or so, and then we move on. Okay, what's the positive out of this? What can we do? How can we move on? So when COVID happened, we were doing a lot of live event type of things with our local clients. That all changed. I still had I was still working. So everybody was trying to come online at that point. And that's when we said, let's become fractional CMOs, because we were doing that for us. And we were kind of trying to sell that, to our people that we were doing events with. When we took that online to go that fractional CMO route, and we started getting clients for that, that was kind of a turning point for us. We realized a couple of things. We realized in the process, we're really good at building teams, whether we build our teams or we build our clients' team. We're really, that's something that came out. I think we knew it somewhat, but it's something you don't believe in it. You don't believe it unless you do it, like keep doing it a couple of times. And now that's one of our strengths. But the doubt there's always that doubt that was it right? Was it not right? You just have to kind of take the leap of it. Don't be silly. Don't just say, I have don't be like, I don't no skills, no plans, no nothing, and I'm just going to jump into it. We've also had many of our students that say, oh, this is so exciting. I'm just learning. I'm brand new learning about this. Or had one success, right? One hit wonder. And they say, I'm ready to quit. Like, that's not, it's not smart, because you have responsibilities. Like, know yourself, what responsibilities you have to take care of. But if everything is taken care of, you just jump. And I think having that self-doubt is also good, because it's a self-check method for yourself, so it's not the worst thing to have it, but we just kind of, it's a mindset thing. You have to keep telling yourself that you could do it. I'll let Paul tell the story, but I like his answer, but I also have a story on that I just had the epiphany of it this past week that I was telling you, Paul, about.
Oh yeah, I remember that story.
My swimming.
Yes, the swimming one. Yeah. That's a great one. You should share that one.
Yeah.
You open the loop, might as well close it.
Yeah. Okay, all right. I'll say it now. So I love water, but I'm not a good swimmer, and I kept telling myself over and over that I don't know how to tread water. Like, so many times I've missed out going into the water because it was the deep end of the water. Now I'm 5 feet, so even 5 feet water is deep water for me, right? Because my feet doesn't touch, my head is over underwater during that time. So this past week, I took my son, and I was like, I'm just going to go, because he wanted to go through to the deep side, the 5 feet side for me, deep side. And I was treading water, and I was like, hey, I know how to tread water. And then I did it again this week, and I was like, I know how to do it, but I kept telling myself that I couldn't do it. And I did it 10 years ago too, because I was certifying to be a scuba diver. But somehow, because over the years, I didn't do it for so long, I kept telling myself I couldn't do it. So a lot of it, the self-doubt that we have, it's just us telling ourselves that I couldn't do it, or I can't do it.
Right. Yeah. It's, the self-doubt part, it's like the downfall of so many successful people, so many successful ideas. Right. And, one of the stories I've got about that is when I was, decided to produce a feature film, right? I'd had several successful business ventures, and I was like, all right, this is an opportunity. The opportunity came at me, and I was like, let's do this. Let's go in on this. I had never produced any film before, let alone a SAG feature film, which, for those listening, if you do a SAG feature, you're working with union, you're working for all these things. And I've kind of come from the school of thought where it's like, I pretty much have very little self-doubt, or like very, very minimal times in my life I ever doubted that I could do something. I've always just had this, I can do it. The answer is usually yes. Like, I can do it. I'll figure it out. Right. And that's like been one of the driving factors for me, is my answer has always been yes. It's always like, can you do this? Yes, I'll figure it out. If I can't, I'll be resourceful enough to make sure it works. And that has led to several opportunities. So you got the movie situation. I sold a business for a client at the age of 23. And these are both situations where everybody around me told me I couldn't do it. So when we were doing the movie, I was told, you can't go SAG, you can't get union talent, you can't cast a movie unless you go with the official named casting director. They said, you can't film a movie in 14 days. It's never been done. You can't film it for under $100,000, and you're not going to get good locations. Well, we filmed in downtown Sacramento with the police's approval without spending any money. We filmed in some of the greatest, locations that have never let people rent a movie before. We went SAG. We filmed it in 13 days. We ended up, so we did it in less. We did it for under $100,000 budget. And we had name talent that people knew from like Disney Channel and shows like that. And we had over 1,000 people submit for the casting call. So all that stuff happened and we were told no, and we pulled it off. Right. So, a lot of times you have outside forces trying to give you self-doubt too, or give you doubts, cause when people are starting a business, their family members are very much like, you probably are familiar with this, Yusuf, like where everybody's got it, right? Where there's family members, there's friends that are like, what are you doing, man? They're probably like, what are you doing a podcast? What are you doing this? Like, there's always that one friend, that one person, and it makes you doubt yourself, right? Like, and it can lead to that self-doubt settling in. And then you're like, no, you can't let that happen. And then, the 23-year-old story, when I was 23 years old, the guy that I worked with for the apparel company, he came to me and said, hey, I've got a coffee business. He had multiple businesses. He goes, I'd like you to sell this business and I'm going to give you 30 days to do it. Now he said, here's the challenge. All my realtor friends said it can't be done. They said, let alone somebody like me who had never sold a business, but they said they couldn't sell this business in under 30 days. But he said, I believe in you, right? Which that's a lot when somebody believes in you and trusts in you, right? That's a huge thing. And he trusted in me, had that I could do it. And he said, you've got 30 days. And we ended up selling that business for more than it was appraised for in 28 days. And like, it was just me saying, yes. Had I ever sold a business before? No. But you know what my answer to him was? Yes, I can do it. And it was just this confidence, this self-confidence. And that's how I've always ran my business and ran my life. Even at the age of 13, had I ever sold apparel before? No, but I was like, yeah, I could do that. And I became one of their top sales reps when I was in junior high, in junior high. And so that mindset's always driven me. And it's something that I think it's learned over time, but like the story Shreya just shared is so true. I mean, something as simple as like telling herself, I can't tread water. I can't do this. Right. And you can do it. Like you can do this. And that's where, it segues into some of the conversations we've had about imposter syndrome, where people feel like you're not worthy enough to do something. Right. And that's, another topic, but yeah.
No, I definitely agree with that. I think a lot of times, especially like when you're starting out, and I understand why we do it. Like sometimes we share what we want to do with people, right? Because sometimes we want that outside validation to say, yeah, go for it. But sometimes it can lead to like what I call unsolicited advice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not always necessarily a bad thing. Like it's not coming from a bad place, but sometimes like you may be given advice based on that person's understanding of how things work that can maybe throw doubt into you and create that doubt, right? So sometimes so I would say like it's kind of good to just keep it, I guess, a personal secret and kind of plan it out and map it out in your mind first how it's going to work. And then you can kind of gradually tell people that that you can trust that would give you objective advice that you ask for. Because sometimes it's the unsolicited advice, I think, that can kind of really, that plants the seed of the doubt in your mind. And then you start questioning your ability, you start questioning your planning. And then it can make already a difficult process harder.
That's so true.
Exactly.
So spot on.
The only difference between successful people and unsuccessful people is that successful people do something.
Right.
And if rather than focusing, just like you said, keeping your plans to yourself if you need to, and just focusing on doing, it'll get you there versus thinking about it or, getting down because somebody said something else.
Yeah. And it's one of those things too, like, and it's also can be influenced by, our upbringing or family situations too. I mean, especially as entrepreneurs. And Shreya, I know like in your situation, being a self-employed business owner is probably not the path I've heard you tell the story, right? That you were set out to do as a kid, right? I mean, like you were told, like you can share that story, but that's an example. People, you went in with everybody saying you should be doing something else, right?
Right. Like, don't leave your job. That was the one thing that I was told. Don't leave your job. Why are you leaving your job? It makes no sense.
Right. don't leave your job, don't do that. And I've been told throughout my life too, and my family's been very supportive, but I'm the youngest of 4 boys and the only one without a college degree. So you can just imagine what I've been, told. And it wasn't till later on in life when everybody was like, oh yeah, he's not going to get his degree. It's not for him. And it's not, it's not saying college is bad. It's not saying any of that. I'm just saying that it may not be for everybody, right? Sometimes it's finding what's best for you and then kind of silencing the outside noise. And it's not that they were overbearing. I mean, I've been around situations where people were very overbearing, and it can be difficult. And sometimes even, in situations, it could be the people closest to you, right? Your significant other could be very negative about what you're doing in the business, and that can cause strife. I mean, there's been a lot of coaching students we've had. I mean, I want included, I had a ex that used to be very critical, right, of my business and what I did. And that can weigh on you, and it can be difficult, but you have to fight through those things. And, if you believe in what you're doing, you have to be willing to cancel out the noise, because there's a lot of noise out there.
To that point, having a community is very necessary, right?
Mm-hmm.
And whether it's your immediate community, your family, friends, and if that's not working, make a community. So what I did when I restarted was invest in mentors that would give me that community where I could share my ideas freely, because they were like-minded people. So sometimes investing in yourself that way, just to get yourself over the hump is very necessary.
I would agree with that. And I think this topic that we're discussing right now is kind of a good segue to the next thing I wanted to kind of discuss with you guys, because many people, they have this belief that business and finding success in business is something linear. But the real reality is that business, it does take time. So like, what would you say to people to manage their expectations while trying to explain that reality of business that doesn't get discussed often enough?
So go ahead, Shreya.
I was going to say consistency is it.
Yeah.
Like I said it earlier, where the only difference between a successful person and an unsuccessful person is that they did it multiple times and they do it over and over again. They have failed way more than the time that the unsuccessful person has even thought about trying. Right.
I was just going to level on to that about consistency, right? Like this is something that comes to me oftentimes. People are like, well, you're so natural when you talk. You're so natural when you share ideas from stage, or if I communicate, right? Like, and I wasn't always that way. If I listen to my very first videos, there's a lot of ums, ahs, uncertainty. I wasn't smiling. I was very nervous, but it came over time, like doing hundreds and hundreds of videos, hundreds of hours of training videos. And it doesn't even pale into comparison to some of the greats, like, let's say Russell Wilson in football, right? I'm from Seattle area, so I can speak to that. Like, people don't give that guy enough credit. They say, oh, he's just unbelievably talented. They say that about Kobe Bryant, say that about Michael Jordan. They say about any of these great athletes, right? That, oh, they're just unbelievably talented. But what you don't see is the fact that they shot the ball millions of times, or they threw the football hundreds of thousands of times, and nobody sees that. But then what they see on Sunday is the 30 or so throws that go really well, but they don't realize that they were being more consistent behind the scenes and doing something every single day. And I think one of the most untalked about parts of business these days is like the art of doing something almost every day, even at maybe not even 7 days a week, but like the days you work, do something for your business, do something, do a recording, do a TikTok, do a reel, it doesn't matter. Like, do one thing, and it's amazing what ends up happening. And it's such a hard concept for people to grasp, is that one thing, do one thing a day, just one thing.
Yeah. If you can relate it to your life too, if you want to be good at anything, you have to be consistent. If you want to lose weight, you have to be consistent. If you want to work on your relationship, you have to, like, how many times have you compromised in your relationship, or you worked on it, right? Like, it just doesn't happen overnight. Business is the same thing.
Right.
Anything you want, you'll just have to work through it and not pretend, but I was going to say pretend, but like, it's just life. You have to work on it.
Yeah, I think, and even like with my experience, like being in business, I find that like, if you really want to improve and like just get better as a person, like business is the way to go, because there's so much parallels that you find in business that you can find in real life, being patient,
yes,
consistency, right? Understanding that, like, even the humility that kind of comes with it, understanding that things are not going to go your way when you want it to happen. It happens on its own time. So how will like you conduct yourself while you're on that journey? Are you going to complain and be upset about it? Or are you going to say, hey, you know what, I'm just going to enjoy the process? Like, it really challenges you to have to improve. So I think that's another part of the journey. Like, you're you're saying how it ties into real life. It really does apply to real life because there's so much different ways in which it'll make you better.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, as a business owner, you're a leader, right? You're saying you're appointing yourself as a leader because you're going to lead this business. And reading this book, John Maxwell's book, Developing the Leader Within You, and he was talking about how great leaders are just problem solvers, right? So that's where pivoting and problem solving. So if it is a game to you, if you enjoy problem solving, which you have to do anyway, regardless, your car doesn't start, you have to figure out how to get to, your work or life is just problem solving in general. So rather than it being a burden or like, oh, great, now I have to deal with this. If you just get good at problem solving.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, it does make you become more solution oriented.
Yeah.
So one thing that I also did want to discuss, and I think this kind of ties into it perfectly, is I think, especially like with social media, there's really this huge push for hustle culture, right? Which for the most part, I don't mind at all.
Yeah.
But there can be sometimes those extreme or impractical views where it's like, okay, you never sleep, you never take breaks, right?
Right.
You just have to quit your job and just dive right into it. Like
Yes.
there's sometimes these extreme views, and this can, I guess, create mental pressure on people because they think that's the only way to approach business. But what practical advice would you give to people that they can actually apply that's, I would say, more measured and calculated?
Oh, I like that. It's a great question. I've, couple things there is, the first thing off, and I come from the side that went to the extreme sometimes, right? And it impacts your health. And sometimes you got to just take that break, right? So I can speak to where people feel like that need to keep pushing and driving.
I was going to say that many people look at it as a life and work balance or business balance or whatever. They're trying to balance both things. And they think, okay, if I focus on my business right now, come back and pick up life later or pick up, this later, that later. It's not a balance. It's just life.
Right.
Like
it's work-life integration. Work-life.
Work-life
That's the thought I was going for. She knew where I was going.
Perfect. See, okay, now continue. Yeah. Work-life integration.
Work-life
It's not
integration.
A balance. Yep.
Right.
Because even if you get burned out, you're not doing yourself anything good. Right. Go ahead. I'll let you.
Oh no, this is good. Work-life integration. There we go. This is why you have business partnerships, right? So no, it's that work-life integration. I mean, I had a friend of mine that really told me that. Like, I used to think at times like, okay, I work too much, I'm doing this too much. And he was like, he's like, I've watched you with your family, with your kids, with how you work and how you balance everything. And they're like, you're truly a master at work-life integration. And that's really, as entrepreneurs, what you are. Like it or not, there is times where you have to work 7 days a week. We work with some of the greatest leaders out there. And there are times you have to work you have to, perfect your craft. You have to constantly be putting stuff out there. And so it's a balance of like that work-life integration where it's how can you make your work fit with your lifestyle and your business, and being willing to understand that there's times where you might be asked to go somewhere and your first inclination might be to tell somebody, no, I can't go out for drinks. I can't, I can't go to this baseball game. I can't go to this football game. I can't go tailgate with you at this game or whatever, because I got this work thing. But then you miss out on a great opportunity. But you know what? You could set that expectation with them and say, hey, I'm excited to go. I'm going to be there. But hey, I've got a email that's super important, or I've got this short Facebook Live I have to do, but I'm just going to do it while I'm there. Is that okay with you? And just give them the heads up. Like, there's a lot of times when I'm out and about with family or friends or things, and they know like I've integrated, it's something I have to do, but guess what? I can still be at the park. I might have to take 15, 20 minutes out of it. And I see Shreya do this all the time with her family too. It's what as an entrepreneur you have to do is you have to be able to strategically interweave it in there, and you surround yourself with supportive people. And if you set that expectations, nobody cares. I think a lot of times we think too much about what people think of us. And so we think like, oh, they're going to hate me if I do this. So I'm just going to not go and hang out and have fun, but I'm going to pull back from social relationships. Like, you still have to have that, or it's very rewarding to still do those. And so it's that work-life integration, because that hustle culture teaches you like, don't ever sleep, don't ever go out, don't ever enjoy life. I mean, I've heard people, and honestly, I just shake my head at this one, right? I've had people literally say, Shreya and I both heard this, where they're like, I never watched Netflix until I made my first multi-millions. And I'm like, come on, like, are you kidding me?
Okay.
Yeah. Like, that might work for them, but that doesn't mean it. And we know they're watching Netflix, but it's
the thing is, everyone's different, whatever works for you. So I'll give you an example of that too, where, Paul was saying that he goes to parks and takes me the things out. Being an entrepreneur, what it does, it gives you that flexibility to pick the people you want to work with and with like-minded people.
Right.
So if you're looking for that, it's like earlier today, just an hour ago, we had a coaching call that we do. So during that call, I had to go pick up my son from school because his bus is not working. So during the call, I said, okay, I'm going to log off Zoom here and I'm going to attend from my phone. So I did 30 minutes on the computer. And then the other 30 minutes I did from my car because I went to go get him. And I was participating. I was unmuting, muting, talking, as active. And they expect it. My family expects it. My son always pops up into meetings, and that's completely fine. Like he sees how I do it, and he thinks it's easy because I am enjoying it while I'm doing it. So he thinks, Mom, your work's not hard. It's easy. You're always like happy. Yeah. So he thinks it's not easy, but it's fun. I enjoy it. And then the thing was, I brought him home. I said, okay, you're settled. So, and then I hopped back on Zoom, and that was perfectly fine. That was work-life integration. With a normal job, if I would have said, I wouldn't be able to do that from my past job if I had that. But now I feel like because of the place I am in, I can integrate that and I'm happy. It's not a hustle, right? I still did the call, I still did the work, but I still did my duties as well.
Yeah. And hustle culture would say, put your duties to the side and just do your business. Right. And that's where people do lead to that issue where they get stressed out, overwhelmed. They just give up, right? Because they're like, it's just too much. And I think a lot of times we listen, like work-life integration is a word everybody should interweave if they're going to be an entrepreneur, because there's no denying it. You will have situations like Shreya talked about. You will have those situations. There's those situations where you get invited to a hockey game or a NFL game or something, and you want to go. And if you tell yourself, no, you're going to miss out on a great opportunity. But if you could just, bring your phone, like one of the things I've done really well, like I will, if I'm riding somewhere to an event with family or friends, I'll let them drive. A, they don't want me driving. That's, a whole nother story, but,
I'm driving.
But it's right. It's like, no. And B, I can sit there and get my work done. So then when we get to the destination, we can go hang out, but I don't have to tell them no and say I can't go. I can spend that 45 minutes in the car getting my stuff done for the day. And then I can move on. Right. And cell phones are so amazing. You can run your business from your phone if you set it up correctly. Right. And it's just using the right tools and having the right structure. And it really is. It's the best answer there is work-life integration. It's the only way to really, as an entrepreneur, you can't avoid it. So you just might as well live with it. So
yeah,
you have to, if you want to continue this path.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, I think that's really something that I'm glad that you guys clarified on, because I think sometimes there's this misconception, right? I mean, it's not to say that there might not be times where sacrifices have to be made or tough decisions have to be made.
Oh yeah,
it's not sustainable to go at the pace that if you listen to the social media at the pace that they say to go, it wouldn't be sustainable. Like for you to have for business to do well, you have to be fully healthy.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You have to be healthy. I mean, I've had bouts of it myself where I have worked myself almost to an early grave, where you're like, you sit back and you go like, oh my goodness, like I'm not feeling well. I need to rest, I need to stop. Like you check yourself at times, and you have to, because it can be easy to just get going. And, and part of it too is like, especially in our situation, we enjoy what we do. People talk about another sports reference is I've had people tell me like, Paul, the thing about you is you enjoy the game, right? You enjoy the game of business, the game of marketing. Like I enjoy the entire process. So like Shreya was talking about how earlier about people that, are thinking, certain ways about you have to enjoy the process, right? You just have to enjoy the process and it's all going to work out. And that's really the most important part.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's where the magic happens. The magic actually happens in the process. Like that's where you learn a lot about yourself. That's where you learn a lot about your business. That's where I think the real growth happens in. Stepped in. So you guys have great working chemistry. So
it's important. Yeah, it's really important.
So to piggyback off of that, right? Sometimes people, they're unsure of whether or not they want to do solo entrepreneurship or whether or not they want to venture on into a partnership, right? So with your guys' experience, what would you guys say people should look for when determining if a business partner would be the right choice for them?
So we both started off as
Mhm.
solopreneurs,
Okay.
and it's for a business partner, you have to find somebody like-minded, but still has the skills that balances each other out. Like, we both don't like doing taxes,
Right.
so like, yes, we both are deficient on that piece, but we balance each other. Like, I have the process piece, he's a marketing piece. Like, we both balance each other out on that. We think alike, we have a lot of things in common, and it's more of it's like a friendship,
Mhm.
we're friends. And we're
Yeah.
friends first, right?
Right.
That's how it ended up being, because we met each other 4 years ago, and
Mhm.
we actually became friends first, and then we said, okay, let's give this a try. Let's start doing the business. So it's someone that you enjoy working with, because we spend a lot of, like, enjoy talking to, because we talk
Right.
a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you don't enjoy talking to that person, don't do that.
No, communication is key. Business relationship, personal relationship, whatever relationship, communication with your audience, with your following, right? Through social media or emails. I mean, all that stuff is critical for your success. So being a great communicator and finding somebody that complements you is really the crux of that relationship, and Shreya talks about this all the time.
Work on your strengths, and
yeah.
Work on your strengths. Focus on
focus on your strengths. Yeah. So
and manage your weaknesses.
There we go. Yeah. So, and that's the most important part. Cause like my weaknesses are, definitely, things related to processes and things. And that's where Shreya and I complement each other well. And so we really just jived in that way. So you got to look for those people that really are going to uplift you where you feel you're weak. And when we met, I was like, I need somebody that understands processes and that can take us to that next level, with the ideas that I had. And then next thing there we go.
Right.
And it worked out perfect. So you have to have an open mind too. That's key. And you also have to be guarded to some extent. I mean, I've had some partnerships that just went completely south, that involve lawyers at the end because I wasn't guarded enough. And so you kind of have to be, there's a balance between being open-minded and also just rushing into things, right? So you do have to be careful and really
Right.
understand, look for red flags.
I mean, some things, you got to be able to trust the person.
Mhm.
And it's a gamble. It really is a
it is.
gamble. Business is a gamble. Life is a gamble if you think about it. So you just have to have trust in the process and kind of jump into it. But yeah.
I think like listening to you guys speak, I think there's so much like parallels to real life because
so many.
It's the same thing with personal relationships. Literally everything you said can also be applied to personal relationships. Like this could easily be an episode about dating.
Yes, right?
He's my work husband.
My work wife. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I agree. And I really like that part where you guys mentioned that the part with the strengths and the weaknesses, right? Because yeah, definitely it's good to work alongside of someone that, let's just say, yeah, I'm strong in this area, but I'm not as strong in this area. But the person I work with, that's what they specialize in.
Right.
Yeah, you guys kind of come together to form like this one like Avengers type partnership where you guys can then work to like proceed and move forward and tackle the challenges that come with business, right?
Yeah.
It's
the fastest way to grow too, if you think about it. Like, a lot of times I've always learned that you need to, if you're weak at something, you need to work at it and get really good at it. Yes, it applies. Like, you need to learn your math skills, like 2 + 2 = 4. Like, yes, it applies. You gotta learn. But at a certain point, when you grow up, you kind of understand what your weaknesses are. And if that is your weakness, but you have a strength that you're really good at it, like if you're good at public speaking, go focus on public speaking and have a team that manages you to push you to like go get those platforms. So manage the pieces like that you're not that good at with the team, but then also just focus on what you're good at so that you can excel really fast.
Yeah. Since we're talking about what we're good at, I mean, you guys, your biggest expertise is in marketing, right? And I would say that is the most crucial aspect to a business, and I'm sure you guys would agree with me on that as well. So I was looking into the work that you guys do, and I came across that you guys have this formula called FTE. I was wondering if you guys can kind of, share with the audience a little bit about what that formula is and how is it something that can be applied?
Yeah. So that's formula that Shreya came up with because it's very process oriented, and it stands for foundation, traffic, and engagement. So not FTE like full-time employee, right?
Yeah.
So that's what some people think, but FTE, it's really broken down into 3 letters: foundation, traffic, engagement. And really what happens in a lot of businesses is they focus, because we're taught this in college, we're taught this in school, a traffic first mentality, right? Where it's drive traffic to an offer and hope it sticks, or run an ad on a TV and hope that somebody pays attention to it. Like nobody puts real thought into where are you sending those users when they click on your link or go to your website or your landing page, right? So every business, if you break it down into the process, like your foundation should have the right copy that speaks to your audience. And, it's so critical. So I'll let Shreya kind of dive in more about the traffic and engagement piece, but that's really the crux of it is that you need a solid foundation, because you need to build your business just like anything, a relationship or anything, you need to build it on a solid foundation first, right? So you need to have a good website, a good landing page, or all that traffic is useless. It's wasted traffic.
It is, yeah. And I just thought of a joke. And Paul will relate to this because, just like, you throw pasta on the wall to see if it's cooked.
Yes.
You don't have to throw that to see if it sticks, if the traffic sticks. You don't have to just randomly throw your marketing
I'm part
dollars.
Italian, so I throw pasta to see if it's done right. That's the trick. See if it's finished cooking.
You don't have to throw more marketing dollars to see if your traffic source sticks and if you're going to see results, right? Mm-hmm. So focus on capturing your audience's information, focus on conversion, focus on all of that, and then go drive the traffic. A lot of people, like a lot of students that we teach in high schools, they fight us on, why do I need to build my own audience? Why do I need my own website? Why do I need to create my own email list? And because I have this ginormous following on, Instagram, and that's perfectly fine, or TikTok or this. Why do I need to take them away from a platform? Well, that platform can shut you down anytime. And then what are you going to do? You're going to have to start from scratch. If you have that information, then you can, you have that data. That data is the key in this age, in this digital age. Data is the real money. And if you have that database of your potential customers, current customers, that's what's going to make you successful.
Yeah. Right? Facebook and Instagram, I mean, they're profitable because you are the product for them, right? They have your data. And we tell people this all the time when they argue about like, why, well, I should just focus on my Instagram following. It's like, well, what is Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, TikTok? What do they all ask for? It's your phone number and your email. So they ask for your information for a reason, because they capture that information. And so part of what we teach is start with gathering information, because the biggest mistake people make is they send them to a landing page that's A, not speaking to their audience, and B, it's not capturing any information. So you've got to start with that foundation. Like we talked about relationships earlier too. If you don't have a solid foundation, the relationship's not going to work. So if you don't start your business on a solid foundation, the business is not going to work. And so that's why you can look at Shreya and I, we have a combined 30 plus years of experience in business and entrepreneurship, because we focus on the right things first. We aren't flash. We're not about the flashy stuff. And everybody's going to teach you in a business, especially for those entrepreneurs listening, like dive into the latest trend, the latest thing. And if you go after trends, your business is just going to be a trend, right? But if you go after a solid foundation, then your business will be solid. So
yeah, I really like that, and I think I would agree with it. I remember when I first started, like it was about 7 years ago, I really got into blogging like during my undergrad years, and then we kind of had like a little group where we would kind of like write together and share ideas and stuff like that. And then a lot of them just stopped. I'm like, oh, like, why'd you guys stop? And then they said, oh, well, because, we're not really seeing any money from this and stuff like that. And they're like, they had blogs. It's like, oh, I'm having a hard time attracting advertisers. So I'm like, okay, well, are you producing content? Well, no, I want to make money first so I can see that it makes money, and then I'll start putting content on there. But I'm like, it kind of like, it doesn't quite work that way. Like you have it backwards. Like you have to produce the content to get the traffic for them to see that this is something that's worth advertising with, right?
But it is a backwards approach, right?
Yeah,
that's a traffic first mentality,
But it ties into what you guys are saying, because you would think like that's just a one-off, but it now from what you're explaining, it kind of seems like it's more of a common misconception that the traffic has to come first, and the traffic will dictate the content and not the other way around.
Yeah.
Right. Well, so next time your marketing company, any marketing company that you're working with, or your like within your company, marketing people are telling you, let's run ads for just sake of running ads, think to yourself, are you throwing pasta to the wall?
Yeah.
Just to see if it sticks.
Or, yeah, just to see if it sticks, or is it actually cooked?
Yeah.
You don't want to waste food, and you definitely don't want to waste money throwing it
Yes.
at places, right?
Right.
Because one of the things with online business is it's very easy to get caught up in spending. Like everyone, there's
Yeah.
no shortage of, products out there, people trying to sell you something, right? So you want to make sure that before like you're investing money into something, that you've done your due diligence on your part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. Yeah. The due diligence is so key there. And, and I think it stems from that problem does stem from, like we were saying, everybody's taught that mentality of put a bunch of advertising dollars. Cause in college, you're trained to go work for corporate America. Shreya and I were talking about this. You're trained to work for corporate America, which has millions and millions, and in some cases, billions of dollars in advertising expense. Now, the ironic thing is that most of the backbone is built on small businesses, but everybody's taught this mentality of like the corporate mentality of I've got an unlimited budget, so I'm just going to throw money at it. And then when you get into business for yourself, you're like, oh goodness, like I now have to, I have to like spend money, and now I have to like pinch my pennies and make sure I do this right. But I was told I need to run ads and that I need this. But it's about being strategic and how you utilize your advertising dollars. And that's why we come from that whole platform of like teach your foundation first, because otherwise you're going to get stuck spending your ridiculous amounts of money, and it's not going to work.
And sometimes why I don't enjoy looking at corporations as like the standard is because they have like they have big accounting firms that are showing them like how to write off a lot of these costs.
Right.
And secondly, they have people who are like monitoring like where every dollar is spent, right? So yes, even though it might seem they have unlimited like budgets,
Yeah.
they're actually more meticulous in some cases than small businesses when
Right.
it comes to spending. So they know if they're going to invest to advertise in certain places, they have enough data to show them that this is where they're going to get a lot of reward from it.
Right.
You
Right.
don't really see them place ads like in like just coincidentally. Like no, there is a strategy behind it, right?
Right. Right.
So
Yep.
like so I think like if anyone, like even including myself, like was to adopt a marketing strategy, it would have to be with that level of focus and not necessarily looking at the finances that they spend.
Yes.
Right. That's why it's so important to focus on where and what data is that big corporation collecting. And if you look at majority of big corporations, they want your email.
Yes, they do. Every time you go to a store, I mean, I was at a grocery store and they're like, oh, get $3 off your next order. Put your email in here.
Yeah.
Because you think about it, if you have an email list, you can even create a lookalike audience. You can do a lot of stuff with it, not just email, but it's that data they're collecting. You need to start collecting the same data.
And it's a direct to consumer, right? It's just like they know if they have a certain sale happening, they know that they can reach you directly weeks before that sale takes place, just to start planting that seed that, hey, the sale's coming up, right? So I definitely agree with everything that you guys had just said. I guess like when you look at the day-to-day life of entrepreneurship, right, what would you guys say is what would you guys say is the attitude that kind of keeps you guys going, like
It's
as
that
you approach the day-to-day aspect of it?
definitely the can-do attitude, like that I can do this. We were referencing it earlier, and it's really this idea that I can do it, and that keeps you going. That I got this, I can do it. And it's the other thing I liken it to, the other attitude you have to have, and this is a great sports analogy, is it's just water off a duck's back. Like a duck like repels water, right, when they get up. And like prior to this call, right, like I was blown up with 4 to 5 text messages of problems, right? So we're going to go problem solve here in a bit, but you have to like look at those things and just be like, well, that's water on a duck's back. At the end of the day, I'm still alive. What got thrown at me that day didn't kill me. It made me stronger. Thanks, Kelly Clarkson. But I'm not going to sing. I want to make sure you still have listeners after this. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's such a true concept, though. I mean, that's the biggest thing is like, if there's a mistake that happens in sports, like let's say a pitcher, right? A pitcher's up there, he throws a hanging curveball that goes out, right? And it's a home run now. He has another pitch to throw. I mean, unless he's getting tossed after that for the coach, but he has another pitch to throw. Another batter's coming up. you don't have time to sit there and be like, oh man, I coulda, woulda, shoulda, shouldn't have done that. Like, yeah, they can be frustrated. And I appreciate that transparency of them. They're frustrated for those 30 seconds the guys run around the base and they're frustrated. But then guess what? They grab the ball and they're ready to go again. You know, basketball player misses a free throw shot. So be it. They have another shot coming, right? And that's what people need to remember, is that your next shot is coming. Your next opportunity is there. Your next, so something didn't go right. Your marketing campaign didn't go right. This didn't go right. And in business, it's not going to go right. Like, I wish we could sugarcoat it and tell people it's unicorns and rainbows right now, but it's not. Like, business is not going to go right. Just like life doesn't go right. 2020 is a great example of that. Like, life's not going to go the way we expect it to. 2020 was the year everybody was talking about. Oh, it's 2020, that year didn't turn out the way we thought it would. But you just have to be able to realize it's the pivoting that Shreya was talking about. It's that attitude. So I'll let her answer that, but it's more, that's the mindset. You got to pivot.
Right. It is. And it's not easy. It's
Right.
not easy. We're not that great at it. Sometimes it takes a trigger word sometimes to be like, hey, knock it off, just stop thinking about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We need to focus on this right now. Whatever happened, forget about it. And then moving on. It's hard, but what isn't, right?
Yeah.
What isn't? You just have to practice. If this is what you want to achieve, then practice it daily.
Right.
Every little challenge you get, and eventually you'll become a habit.
If it was easy, everyone would do it, right? And
Mm-hmm.
Shreya's great at that with me at times. If I'm like, oh man, this is frustrating, she's like, no, forget it, move on,
Mm-hmm.
and we do that for each other too. Like, you have to, like, otherwise.
Oh yeah, I go on rants. Rants all the time.
It's just part of it, and you have to be able to pivot. It's it just is. It's part of the story. It's part of the journey. It's part of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I really like the sports references you guys are doing. You guys are on the perfect podcast.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, but I'm gonna kind of piggyback on what you guys said, because I was watching Ted Lasso. Yeah, and then he was talking to one of his players, and he's like, be a goldfish, because a goldfish's memory only can go 16 seconds.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so I thought about that. I'm like, hey, you know what? Like, that's a good mentality to have. Like, okay, something went wrong. Okay, feel the emotions, endure it, and then move on. Just focus on this.
So good.
I love it. Yep.
That is a brilliant analogy. I'm never going to look at a goldfish the same. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I love it.
Yeah. So now for this part of the podcast, like, I like to call it open floor.
Okay.
So it's just all uninterrupted time. So as much time as you guys need, is there anything that you guys would like to share or discuss? The floor is yours.
I like it. Shreya, I'll let you share. There was a topic you wanted to talk about, right? With, that imposter syndrome.
That we kind of covered it.
Yeah, we covered a little bit.
We did cover it a bit. And the imposter syndrome of like thinking that you can't do something. And, that other person is so much better. As we've grown through our careers, we've realized we've worked with a lot of big names, and we've just realized that there's nothing special about them. Absolutely nothing special about them. So why are you stopping yourself from not being there? Right? It's just, the difference is they did it. They got there because they did it, because they took those small steps. They built a team. They grew. That was the only difference. And a lot of people stopped themselves. And the treading example that I was sharing earlier was the same thing. It's just, unfortunately, it's the mindset. And even if you feel like, yes, skills are important. Skills are very important in order to do something. But you can hire that skill out too. If you know where you're going, if you have a plan, if you're you know where you're going exactly, but you could manage your weaknesses and hire that piece out to somebody else. If you don't have that skill, you can learn that skill. But if you have the proper mindset, you'll make it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's perfect. And, my mentality, it's the mentality I've always lived with is why not, right? I mean, I've got the can do it attitude, but it's always why not? Why not me? Why should I not take this opportunity? And a lot of times, a lot of the reasons we have for not taking certain opportunities, like, hey, an opportunity to produce a movie or an opportunity hits you, and you're going to come out with 10 reasons why you shouldn't do it. But if none of those reasons are going to kill me, none of those reasons are going to put my family in danger, then, or those that I love and care about in danger, then what am I saying no to? If none of it's extremely dangerous, and why are you saying no to it? Like, consider all the possibilities, have an open mind, why not me? Why not, why not us? That's why, in another sports analogy, that's why Appalachian State could beat University of Michigan or a school like that in an upset football game. A lot of times you see these big major upsets. You're like, how could that happen? Well, guess what? Those players went in with that mentality of, why not us today? Why can't we have the big upset? Because guess what? Those players over there in the other field, they put their pants on the same way. They pull up their pants the exact same way you do. They wear the exact same pads, the exact same football uniform that you're putting on. So why not us? And it's that way Shreya was referencing with the imposter syndrome. We work with some amazing talent, amazing people, right? And they've been put on a pedestal because they've done an amazing job with their platform. But at the end of the day, they're human beings just like us. They have people that pour into them. They have mentors. They have coaches just like we all have. They listen to podcasts just like we listen to podcasts. Like, you get the inside scoop. I've worked with celebrities in the movie space. Same thing. They're human beings. They have real emotions. They have real lives. So why not you? Why not? Why can't you have the success, right? That's something people need to ask themselves, instead of thinking all the reasons why, well, this person's so great, I could never be like them. Or this person's so this, so that, so much more talented, so much better looking, so much, whatever the case is, you don't have to look great you don't have to have a face for TV to be on TV, like you just have to suck it up and do it. People will like you for who you are. And that's another thing that people, they try to be somebody they're not. And if you're real and authentic, at the end of the day, people are drawn to authenticity. And so you just have to be true to yourself.
Now more than ever, actually. If you're just yourself, you'll be far ahead in whatever you're trying to succeed at than if you were trying to pretend to be somebody else. Like, now more than ever, just be yourself.
Yeah. I mean, look at TikTok. Like, look at the reason a lot of TikTok superstars have just blown up out of the woodwork is because they're just authentic, everyday people that are just being themselves, and people get to know, like, and trust them for who they are because people want authenticity. So, gone are the days of, like, even in a marketing realm, we've had videos of selfie videos, like holding a phone, talking for 3 minutes, that outperformed a video that a client spent $8,000 to $10,000 on, a professionally done video, and it outconverted 3-to-1 conversion rates. Was a selfie style video. Boy, were they upset. But the reality is, it's because they were making fun of it because I did the video and it was shaky. They're like, oh, it's shaky. I was like, no, you just watch, because people are going to realize it doesn't have to be polished. In fact, our polished videos don't perform as well as our normal ones. It's because people resonate with you as an individual, as a human being, not as not somebody that's untouchable. So you don't have to be untouchable. If you want to start a podcast, grab a microphone and start recording. Like, if you want to start whatever it is you want to do, just get out there and do it. Because if you don't do it, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. And if you mess up, that's fine. Because when we do our trainings, gosh, we mess up and we laugh at each other and we call each other out. Yeah. And I think people relate to that more than, it's a perfect, beautiful training product, right? Because that's not going to happen. When you're going to sit down and do it, you're not going to be a perfect, beautiful product that you're creating. You're going to go through this mess up.
Right.
Yeah. There's so much truth in what you guys said. Yeah. I think the authenticity is the most important thing. And I think now, especially like in this age that we're living in, like with social media, with all the content out there, I think the thing that really stands out is just who's being themselves, who's being original, right? And that's just what people are naturally like drawn to.
Yes.
And I think when you just navigate through life, and even in business, when you're trying to portray something that you're not, I think what happens is you lose that sense of identity.
Right.
And then you have to now go through a journey of like trying to relearn who you are and rediscover who you are. But when you just really just make it about, I'm just going to be me. This is who I am.
Right.
Then it's good. And I think even when you can find a way to bring that audience on that journey with you, I think is a good thing too.
That's so strong.
Because I remember like when I started this podcast about, it'll be 4 years, like come this July.
Wow. That's awesome.
I couldn't even imagine doing an interview like this with you guys. Like, it's like, I didn't even know, I knew what I want to discuss, but I didn't have my voice yet. Right. But going through that journey and taking the bumps and bruises and understanding like, okay, I'm probably going to suck when I start. But as long as I can find a way to get better, and then, gradually you find your way. Right. So, why not?
You find your people. And Paul has a great saying about, not 100% of the people are going to like you.
Right.
You don't have to get your feelings hurt about it. I'll let you say it.
Yeah, no, it's what's funny. Like, we're on the same wavelength because I was actually thinking that quote and she's like, well, Paul's got a quote. I was like, whoa, So it's like a thought bubble came up here and she saw it, but it's not there for those listening. So a third of the people will love you, a third of the people will hate you, and a third of the people aren't going to care anyway about you. Now, I didn't make that quote up. I heard it once from somebody. I need to look up who said that, but that quote is so important and so strong because a third of the people really are gonna love you. Now, I take it a step further because when I heard this quote, they were saying, focus on just the third that love you and forget the rest. But there's a third of the people that are going to love you. A third of the people are literally going to hate you, which happens. I mean, believe it or not, it happens. Like we have haters and it's okay. And guess what? Those third of the people that hate me, I put them on my shoulder, and I'm like little angry Doug Baldwin, right? I used to play football at the Seahawks, right? And I'm like, like I've got a chip on my shoulder at all times. Like I've got somebody that hates me and it looks wonderful from the top. So that those people drive me as well. So the people that love me, I want to be my best for them. People that hate me, I want to succeed so they can see me succeed, right? Like I've got that little chip and swagger and you need that, I think, to succeed. And then you've got the third that don't care either way. Well, they're lukewarm. So whatever, they don't care either way. But that's the mentality though. It's like, you have to realize that if you make a social media post, there's gonna be 1/3 of the people that are going to judge you. There's gonna be 1/3 of the people that are going to like your post and 1/3 of the people that really don't care. So they're just going to keep scrolling, so you just have to realize that. Like it sucks to realize that, but once you get over that fact, you're going to actually put yourself out there. You're going to make that video. You're going to do that content. And you have to realize no matter what you do, somebody's going to be upset. And that is life. That is business. That is just reality. So you have to realize that.
And to kind of piggyback off of what you're saying, like if I was to ask you guys, like, what would you say the opposite of love would be? So
I would opposite of love. I would say distaste.
Distaste?
I could have said hate, but that's a strong word. So distaste. Yeah. We'll go distaste.
So Shreya, do you want to take a crack at it?
If we're not using the other word, the H word.
Yeah.
Yeah, not liking somebody.
Liking? So
yeah.
What I would say the opposite of love would be, I would say, is indifferent, right?
Ooh.
Because I always find that like there's a very thin line between love and hate.
Right.
Only because it kind of comes from the same emotional, like I would say it comes from that same emotional realm. Like, because love is a very strong word too, as is hate, right? But love is obviously the positive word, so we gravitate to that more. But if you think about it, like for someone, like even if someone doesn't like you, for them to see a post and then they want to write a mean comment, they're really not much any different than the person who writes the nice comment.
Yeah.
It took the same time, the same ability for them to go to the same picture and leave the same comment or video, whatever the case may be. So I would say like someone that loves you and someone that hates you, they're still an engaged fan.
Right.
They're
That's a great point.
Because they're consuming something, right? There's a consumption. So in a way, it's kind of like a balanced duality where you kind of need both. Because
you do.
Because they give you that engagement, right?
They do, and they help your social scores too. So thank you to those that dislike us all, and leave your comments. So, don't judge from afar. Please leave your comment by all means.
Because to think about it, like you took the same amount of time that someone that loves me to go and do something like that.
Yeah.
So you're just like, I call them
not far away.
Yeah. So I would like refer to them as unrealized fans. They're fans. They just haven't realized that they were yet.
That's good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Unrealized fans. That is strong. I love that one.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
And it's something that like I kind of thought about, right? And then it's like I thought about that phrase, a thin line between love and hate.
Yeah.
Because there's even times too where someone at one particular time they may have loved us. Right. And suddenly, you didn't live up to an expectation, or you might have did something they don't like, and then suddenly that love turns into hate.
Yeah, it happens to celebrity, it happens to athletes. They decide to go to another team, and people are all of a sudden, LeBron James, when he went to Miami, all of a sudden, all of Cleveland was like against him, and then he came back, and then he left again. And it's just like, it's like you do one thing, and then they're up. All of a sudden, they go from love to hate really quick. So
it's like, am I gonna believe that now these people that loved him when he was in Cleveland, now you hate him because you're in Miami? Right. You're just upset about something, right?
You're upset. Right. Yeah, you'll get over it.
They're just unrealized fans. They're still fans of him. They just haven't realized.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
So they're all part of that ecosystem. So I think they are. That mentality of like haters, it's not always a bad thing. I don't necessarily think, right?
Right. No, I think that's a great way to look at it. Like I've always looked at it as like, hey, they fuel me, which I still will, but like I like that unrealized fan because they're still engaged with you and they still could become a fan. I mean, there's a lot of people that used to like not be on the Tom Brady bandwagon, but as he's aged and like they realize what a great leader and person he is, that more and more people I feel like him than ever before. Whereas, when he was younger, like my brother was even telling me, he's like, I didn't like him at all. Right. Didn't care for him. And now he's like, he's the greatest. He's amazing,
Yeah.
So like, it is an unrealized fan, right? As he's going up and then, and that's a great way to look at it is instead of haters, we're going to call them a third or unrealized fans. That's
I like
smart.
it.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things that were said in this podcast today.
Yeah.
I think this was a lot of learning moments. Is there any last things that you want to communicate to the audience?
Shreya, you got something first?
No, go ahead.
Oh, so, I mean, I would just, it just goes back to getting started, like if you're wanting to start a business, if you're wanting to change your job, if you're wanting to do something, just get started and don't look back. And there's a fine line between going all in, right? And going, you don't have to go all in. Like that's something that's also, I want people to get out of this. Like we've referenced it a few times, but I really want to reiterate that point. Like if you want to go in on your business, it doesn't mean you need to go quit your job, separate from your family and go hide. Like there's that work-life integration. There's the fact that you don't need to, you need that income, right? If you have a job right now and you're going to go quit, like to go start your business, you need that income because your business is going to cost some money. So you need that. You just might have to put in some extra hours at night or, work a little harder on the weekends or something, but become a weekend warrior while you're building your business. But, I would encourage people like go in, get started, but don't go all in because that's going to lead to more stress and it's going to be harder for you to build that business of your dreams. You really need that stability of an income. You need your family force. So don't shut them out. Practice work-life integration and you're going to set yourself up for bigger success.
Mm-hmm. It's find something that you're truly passionate about. If you're not willing to do it after work, after all your responsibilities are taken care of, you're not that passionate about it.
Right.
It's okay. Skip it. It's fine. Before we created Success Counts and Marketing Counts, I actually had a company, it's still there. It's called Ninja by Night because I used to work and do all that stuff during the day and then used to work at nighttime on the business to kind of get it going, to get my products created, to have it up and live. But I was passionate about it. So it didn't feel that bad. I was a ninja by night because I was going and conquering my dreams as a ninja. But if you're not passionate enough to do that, then it's not you're happy. Like you won't be happy even if you go to it full time. It's not your true calling. So find something. You'll find something. Obviously you will. That can also make money that you're passionate about, that you are willing to put the time in and grow it correctly so that you're successful at it. And then at that point, your work and life balance will no longer be there. It will just be work-life integration. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are some great answers. I agree. Yeah, just work with what you have and make the most of it. And then from there, as you keep it going, see where maybe the lapses or gaps might be.
Yeah.
And then from there, you can fill it in, right?
So important.
Is there anything that you guys want, any business or anything that you guys want to plug before we wrap things up?
Yeah, I mean, we can, they can find us on social media. I'll let Shreya share her Instagram and I'll give you mine. They could follow us there and get all our wisdoms here and there.
Yeah, I am. It's actually, I am _Shreya Banerjee.
Yep. And then I'm at Paul J Counts and you can follow me on Instagram that way. So would love to connect with all you.
Thank you guys for joining. I had a great time. You guys, I think, brought a lot of wisdom, experience, and I think perspective to something I think is very important, entrepreneurship.
Well, thank you for having us. This was a great show. We had a lot of fun.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Wire to Wire podcast. Be sure to share and subscribe. You can also check out all of my books, including my latest one, Quarantine Thoughts, available at all major retailers. Until next time.